This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Do you play FanDuel and feel like you aren't creating consistent money-making lineups? Go over to the DFS Doctors on Twitter at the DFS Doctors and DM them with promo code Detroit Sports to get a free trial for their analytically formulated 70% lifetime profit rate NFL and NBA lineups. The whole purpose of playing daily fantasy sports is to get out there and compete and give yourself a chance to win. So go over to the DFS Doctors. Let them help you. They have analysts on staff that look at the best optimal lineup that you can put out there to win money. So why not take advantage? At the DFS Doctors, promo code Detroit Sports.
CBD is a game changer sweeping the nation. This hemp extract is the natural way to elevate your mood, eliminate aches and pains, reduce anxiety, and keep you sleeping all night long. It can even cut your workout recovery time in half. Get in the game today with 20% off all orders of CBD and lavender products from Lavender Lane, a lavender farm located right here in Milan, Michigan. Just go to lavenderlanemi.com today and enter coupon code Detroit for 20% off your entire order. Guys, look, these amazing products are infused with calming lavender to maximize their effectiveness, meaning your CBD items only take minutes to take effect, which is way quicker than those pills you were about to swallow. On top of it, they are perfect for men and women. Lavender Lane has lab-tested CBD creams, tinctures, and roll-ons that are perfect for any situation, even if you're on the go. Put your health back in your hands by heading over to lavenderlanemi.com and entering coupon code Detroit for 20% off your entire order of CBD and lavender products. What do you have to lose? Your satisfaction is guaranteed or your money back. So if you need lavender gifts for your loved ones or just looking for the natural way to ease your discomfort with CBD, go to lavenderlanemi.com and use coupon code Detroit to unlock these miraculous benefits of CBD and lavender. That's lavenderlanemi.com. And remember, use coupon code DETROIT for 20% off your CBD and lavender products from Michigan's own Lavender Lane.
And welcome to the latest, the freshest edition of Sundays with Dominic and Vito. I am your host, Vito Geronimo Churco, alongside nobody, as my brother is not with me once again. It's a ritual now, every single week on Sundays with Dominic and Vito. But hey, don't be up in arms. Be calm, cool, and collective, because Vito, Big V, is here for you to satisfy all your needs when it comes to Detroit Lions talk, specifically on this week's edition of Sundays with Dominic and Vito. And first and foremost, to an article now from SI All Lions, a website, so it is affiliated with SportsIllustrated.com. John Charles McElroon, my man, the myth, the legend, the co-host of Doc and Jock, the co-executive producer for the whole entire network and co-owner and founder of the network, which was founded in 2013. That is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. He is the lead writer. Yeah, him of all people. Yeah, I mean, you're exactly probably thinking the way that I am right now about him, leading the way as the lead writer of the site. But he will rile up the masses and has recently in many of his mock drafts. But one of his articles that I want to focus on right now to lead off this week's edition of Sundays with Dominic and Vito is one titled 3 Detroit Lions Who Must Step Up in 2020. So very easy to find out what the crux of this article will be about. And as you look here, and as I start reading what he has to offer for us, his 3 veteran players, he says, that must step up in 2020 in order for the Lions to have any sort of success. And remember, there's been a mandate now handed down by Miss Martha Ford and her daughter Sheila for the Lions to be a competitive playoff contending squad in 2020. What does that constitute? That is up for debate right now among Lions fans and pundits alike, because it could be simply 8-8. And then if the Lions do end up taking Tua Tagovailoa at number 3 overall in this year's NFL draft, does that give and/or buy Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn an extra year with the Lions? Because you would realistically then come to the mindset that if they do end up going with a rookie quarterback as their starter, and from day one of the NFL season in 2020, then the Lions won't be a highly competitive squad week in and week out. And that would subsequently mean that the Lions wouldn't be a playoff contender. Subsequently, with a new franchise passer, well, would that mean then that the Lions can afford to finish even sub 500 and then buy Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn an extra season because Tua would be learning on the job, they would be going through their bumps, there would be a significant learning curve, and then the expectations wouldn't be as high for this team to win in 2020. So all of that is a discussion for another day, as once again focusing on John Charles Macaroon's article here on 3 Lions that must step up in 2020 in order for the Lions to have any sort of success this upcoming season. The first guy that he notes is the former Pittsburgh Steelers tight end, Jesse James, a free agent acquisition a year ago from Bob Quinn in the Lions front office that did a diddly squat, you can easily argue, in a Lions uni a season ago. As John Macaroon writes here, he says that James struggled mightily in 2019 to have any sort of impact on the Lions' offense. And remember, too, he brings up a valid point, something he had to bring up, and it's the contract that Jesse James signed with the Lions a season ago. It was for 4 years and $22.6 million. And in him trying to live up to the bill of that, relatively, a long-term deal, at least can be said, for that contract signed by Jesse James an offseason ago, he caught only 16 passes for 142 yards, and that was it. 16 catches, guys. 142 reception yards, too, to go along with that for Jesse James a year ago. Once again, he did diddly squat in a Lions at uni in his first season in Motown. Definitely has to pick it up for the Lions, I think, to click and gel more offensively. And remember, Matt Stafford and the Lions' passing attack was well on its way to having a strong campaign while Stafford was healthy. It was definitely an offensive attack that was clicking to a full extent. And maybe not clicking on all cylinders. I don't want to go that far for the Lions' offensive attack in the passing game specifically a year ago while Matt Stafford was healthy under center. But still, it wasn't one of the weak points of the Lions collectively as a team. And Stafford was having a great campaign and a great bounce-back year when compared to his 2018 season, in which his numbers regressed mightily. And many then expected Stafford not to be nearly as good as he was when he was healthy and played in the 8 games that he did in 2019. So Stafford, once again, if he would have kept playing for the entire campaign, would have stayed healthy, guys, he could have put up numbers that would have given him consideration for Comeback Player of the Year in 2019. So yes, his numbers were that good a year ago, and you look at, his quarterback rating, QBR, calculated by ESPN, which is a high-end, in-depth statistical evaluation tool now for quarterbacks all across the league. And Matt Stafford was among the best when just considering that stat, which is like the almighty stat now for NFL QBs. He finished, now his completion percentage, by the way, guys, was down from 2018, but still, numbers across the board in the games that he played in, he nearly amassed the same amount of touchdown passes as he did playing in a full season in 2018. He threw for 19 in 2019 and only 5 INTs, a quarterback rating of north of 106 to be exact. So he did a lot of good stuff, a lot of good for himself specifically. And once again, this only came in 8 games for him, but man, across the board, his numbers were terrific. His QBR, by the way, guys, was scary bad in 2018. It was below 50 at 48.4. That's backup quarterback caliber QBR, maybe barely even good enough for a third-string quarterback in the league. Well, he definitely bumped that up and immensely in 2019, recording a QBR of 73.1. Yes, he went from 48.4 in 2018 all the way up to 73.1 a year ago. So Stafford, tremendous numbers all across the board. And by the way, that quarterback rating of his, the best of his career. And once again, Only played in 8 games. I keep saying that, but half a season, so he didn't play in a full slate of games. And maybe if he would have, maybe if he would have, guys, he wouldn't have amassed that quarterback rating and QBR for the entirety of the season. Yet, when describing what he put up, still in only half a season, you got to give Stafford a lot of credit, and especially after a hugely dismal 2018 in which a lot of doubters came out. If they already weren't out for Stafford and his quality of play, they definitely came out and were loud and proud about Stafford's dismal 2018, and many, once again, because of that, thought he would not put up nearly as good of numbers as he did a season ago. So great numbers from Stafford and the passing attack as a whole, but at the tight end position, outside of T.J. Hawkinson's, the first-round draft pick from a year ago by the Lions and number 8 overall, a guy that should not have been taken, where he was at number 8 in last year's NFL draft. But I digress on that point for right now, at least, as he did put up a hell of a first game as an NFL player, dominating the Arizona Cardinals in Week 1 last season with numbers that were the best of the best among rookies in NFL history and among Lions rookies as well. So, got it done in that game. But after that, his production tailed off significantly, was never the same after that, and then got hurt. So, his growth as a rookie was stunted. It was, put to a halt, to sum it all up, as a result of the fact that he did get hurt, did not finish the season healthy, but also his production had tailed off before he got hurt anyways. So last year, now it wasn't a hugely dismal year out of T.J. Hawkinson as a rookie, and especially when you have to consider that a lot of tight ends don't achieve a high level of success as rookies. They take time to develop. Even the best of the best tight ends that have become Pro Football Hall of Famers. Not saying that Hawk, I like to call him that, and he's affectionately known, I think, by a large sector of Lions fans as Hawk. Well, to keep deserving a nickname, just a nickname, guys, he has to keep building on what he did as a rookie. And there is still hope for him to build upon what he accomplished as a rookie. But still, I'm not going to tell you right now, to all of you out there, that he's going to become a Hall of Famer all of a sudden now either. That would be a stretch for me to say that. But can he do better? Can he build upon what he built for himself as a rookie a season ago? Yes, he can. And then if Jesse James does as well, and really he does to live up to the bill for that 4-year deal he signed last offseason, well, if he does, then you get a lot more of consistent game-to-game, week-to-week production out of that tight end position group, something the Lions didn't get a lot out of a season ago. So Jesse James is one of the guys, 3 guys for the Lions, according to John Charles McElroon, that must step up this upcoming season. Already 10 minutes in. Look at that, guys. Flying by the time is right now. And we haven't even touched upon his player number 2 that must step up in 2020 in order for the Lions to have a heck of a lot more success this upcoming season. And his second veteran player would be, now, still a youngster, but he is a guy that is going into his 3rd season in the league and has not been able to stay healthy throughout the duration of his first 2 years in the league. Has shown signs of a lot of potential and a lot of talent when healthy, and especially during his rookie campaign 2 years ago. But last year, he failed to build upon that, produced just 3.6 yards per carry, and was far from a reliable option in the Lions' backfield when healthy and utilized. Remember, as I said already, he failed to stay healthy for the entirety of last year, and his health has been a big-time concern all throughout his career, and even dating back to his time in college. So, carry on. His injury past is a red flag moving forward for the Lions collectively as an organization. And the Lions do need a heck of a lot more production out of him on a game-to-game basis. And even just from the yards per carry standpoint. And then from cashing in the end zone for the Lions. Because Stafford, in that passing attack once again, did a lot of the heavy-duty lifting for the Lions offensively last year. And the passing attack, well, did not get complimented and helped out consistently enough from the Lions' ground game. Now, remember when Johnson went down, you had other guys step up. And you had Bo Scarborough, who was a free agent they picked up midseason and turned out to be a solid midseason acquisition from Bob Quinn in the Lions front office. Now, what can you rely upon with Scarborough this season now? Because realistically, the expectations for him should not be that high. Johnson's expectations will be higher. So Kerryon definitely needs to do more. And from my vantage point, it starts with him staying healthy for the duration of a full season. Because I'll tell you the truth from my standpoint, guys, if he fails to play in a full 16-game season in 2020, the doubts are out there even more about him being the Lions' bell cow back moving forward. So I want to see more yards per carry from Kerryon in 2020. I want to see 4 to 4.5. I would love to see like 4.2 to 4.5 yards per carry out of Kerryon in 2020. That would be terrific for the Lions. Bo Scarborough, does he build upon what he did a year ago? Also, do they draft a running back in this year's NFL draft in the mid-rounds, maybe in the 3rd or 4th round? Getting a guy such as A.J. Dillon out of Boston College. Now, I penned a piece on him, profiling him as my latest draft profile for all Lions. So check that out. It'll be tweeted out and can be found subsequently on Twitter at our Twitter handle of @Detroit Podcast. So check it out. See how erroneous I was in my judgment and profiling of A.J. Dillon that I did earlier on Sunday. Now, he's a guy that's a bruiser. Could be a complimentary piece, though, guys, for Kerryon and the Lions' ground attack in 2020, and even as a rookie. Now, he's not a guy that just is going to be a burst of speed and blast you and impress you extremely with this speed. But remember, he ran an impressive 40 at the combine, a 4.53 40-yard dash. That was impressive out of a guy that played 3 years at Boston College and racked up some impressive numbers, including the ACC Offensive Rookie of the Year in 2017. So A.J. Dillon is a guy the Lions could realistically target in this April's NFL draft. And if they did, you know what? I think the fans would largely like that selection by Bob Quinn, once again getting a guy in Dillon who could supplement the production of Kerryon Johnson, him specifically, but even others in the Lions' backfield in 2020. So there is that about the second guy that John Macaroon profiled in his piece. And once again, the headline for that piece, 3 Detroit Lions who must step up in 2020. So moving on now to the third guy. And by the way, Dillon, really quick, I want to bring up something and specify something regarding A.J. Dillon. He was a 2017 ACC rookie, not just offensive, but rookie of the year. And he is once again projected to be taken anywhere from the 3rd through 5th round in this year's NFL draft. Now, moving on to that third player once again for John Macaroon. And after Kerryon, he moves on to cornerback Justin Coleman. Now, he was an offseason acquisition of Bob Quinn a year ago, just like Jesse James, who disappointed, now not as highly as Jesse James did. James pretty much did nothing once again, as I said before, and I think I labeled it perfectly. He did diddly squat in a Lions uni in his first year in Motown. Now, Justin Coleman showed some glimpses and signs of brilliance at times in the slot, covering opposing teams' best slot receivers. So I'll give Coleman that much. And he really burst onto the scene in a Lions uni in his first year in the Motor City with some INTs as well, and looked like he might end up forming an impressive duo with Darius Slay in the Lions secondary. Yet, Coleman did not keep up his production, and he ended up with a Pro Football Focus grade of 52.7, ranking him 103rd out of 131 cornerbacks in 2019. Obviously, not impressive when you lay it out there simply as that, using a high-end evaluation tool from Pro Football Focus, which is highly analytical and highly utilized all throughout the league. Now, among league executives, scouts, and fans and pundits as well. So that tells a picture about Justin Coleman's first year in the Motor City. it wasn't a year in which he lived up to the bill, another guy that signed a long-term deal, just like Jesse James. Once again, not as bad as Jesse James, but Coleman and that secondary as a whole needs to pick up their end of the line and their production in order for the Lions to bounce back and at least a little bit from a 3-12-1 campaign a year ago. Because remember, that passing defense was league worst in terms of yards allowed a season ago. So it wasn't good, and it needs to pick it up. If the team wants to become at least semi-competitive and relevant this upcoming season in a what can be perceived as and labeled as, because of the ownership placing the mandate on the organization to win, as a must-win season for Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia. So if Quinn doesn't go out this offseason and pick up some quality guys for the secondary, whether it be through the draft at number 3 overall, let's say even with Jeff Okudah out of Ohio State, a guy that wouldn't be a reach but would be ultra-conservative and could make an impact and an immediate and immense impact on the secondary in 2020, yet a guy that I believe in a kind of at least deep and rich secondary class in this year's NFL draft, you could find later this year. And then there's also free agency. Maybe the Lions pick up a guy in free agency as well to build up and upgrade what needs to be upgraded this offseason. And you could argue the most of any kind of area of need the Lions have going into this offseason, and that would be, once again, their secondary, which was extremely porous last season. So those are the 3 players, according to John McElroon, that must step up in order for the Lions to show some kind of relevance and semi-competitiveness, at least, on a week-to-week basis this year. Because remember, they finished 3-12-1, and even though for the first half of the year they were in a lot of the games until the bitter end and had a lead in the majority of the games, and they were up there in terms of teams that did have at least a lead once in every single game for a while there in 2019. Yeah, they couldn't hold on to leads, and it's because their bend but don't break defense ended up breaking a lot more often than it did not under Matt Patricia and company a year ago. So that secondary, when it comes to the defensive unit of the Lions, needs to improve the most. And then the linebackers do too. The linebackers for sure, the corners, the secondary as a whole, and then you also would like to see an improvement with the pass rush, whether that be Chase Young falling somehow, some way to the Lions at number 3 overall, or the Lions trading down and getting Derek Brown a little bit later in the top 10 of the draft by trading down with the Dolphins moving up then subsequently to get Tua at number 3 overall, let's say. Or the Lions trade down and get Simmons at number 5 through a trade with the Dolphins. Isaiah Simmons, the hybrid linebacker who can be a pass rusher, can even play safety, lined up at safety in a ton of positions a year ago for the Clemson Tigers. So Isaiah, impressed at the combine. He's the real dude. Brown disappointed at the combine. But 2 pass rushers right there, along with the elite pass rusher and former Ohio State edge rusher Chase Young, that you could get at number 3, or by trading down into the lower or bottom half of the top 10 and still get Brown, let's say maybe, just maybe, and more than likely Simmons at number 5 if they do end up executing that trade with the Miami Dolphins. As we all know, and it's been said plenty of times, and I've even said it ad nauseum in the past on past week's editions of Sundays with Dominic and Vito, that the Lions hold the most leverage of any team in this year's NFL draft with that number 3 overall selection. And it's because of the fact that Tua is so darn highly coveted. And many believe he will not get past number 3. And that's because if the Lions don't trade down that pick, they better take him themselves at number 3 overall. Even though all the signs recently have pointed still to Okudah going number 3 to the Lions. But, guys, if the Lions had any kind of knowledge whatsoever in football acumen, they would take Tua at number 3 take him or the trade down. But if you're going to keep the pick, you take Tua with him available on the draft board at number 3. He could reinvigorate, rejuvenate this franchise any way you want to slice it. He would put so much more juice into this franchise for the Lions fan base collectively and give this franchise a chance to win. Well, first off, to make its first ever Super Bowl, and then to hopefully win its first ever Super Bowl as well. And as I said, and actually said it 2 weeks ago on that edition of Sundays with Dominic and Vito, you could very easily follow the blueprint for success from the Kansas City Chiefs as well, who built a Super Bowl champion by drafting Patrick Mahomes when they already had a franchise and capable franchise passer in Alex Smith. And remember, Smith, even after they drafted Mahomes, Smith was still the starter for Mahomes' first season in the NFL. Mahomes sat behind Smith and learned under him and soaked up as much info as possible to allow himself to become the NFL MVP in his second year in the league and first season as the Chiefs' starting QB. And then remember, in Pat's third season in the league, this past season, he won a Super Bowl ring. So it very easily could be done for the Lions by following that blueprint. And once again, it means you do not have to trade Matthew Stafford. You could very easily hang on to him and trade him next offseason instead. And by doing so, guys, you could still have a competitive team in 2020, allow the organization to try to meet the needs of that mandate to be a playoff contending squad and to win now in 2020. And then it also allows you to have even a better team, an even better shot at winning and making the playoffs and going deep in the playoffs even perhaps in 2021 too. And guys, with all of that being said, this has been the latest edition of Sundays with Dominic and Vito. I hope you have thoroughly enjoyed it. It was all about the Detroit Lions on this week's edition of the podcast. And it probably will be as we get into the NFL draft here in late April. And also remember, NFL free agency is starting very soon here. And exactly on March 18th. So the 2020 league year and free agency period begins at 4 p.m. New York time. Or as I like to say, and I think a lot of people like to say, Eastern Standard Time too. So watch out for it. It is rapidly approaching and should be fun and a lot more conversation to be had by John and I at All Lions, the SI affiliated Lions website that we are currently writing for and I am editing for. And also check out much more Lions content on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast. Guys, it's been a pleasure, and I'll talk to you again next week when I hope to have a roundtable discussion on the podcast. Adios for now.